Did you know? Heracles was one of, if not the only member of the Argonaut males to not take part in the debauchery that occurred in the Isle of Lemnos. According to the tales, he was so disgusted by the mass orgy that he urged Jason to leave. This is somewhat odd given that he was not opposed to having affairs in his own tales. No true physical descriptions of Lubu exist in the historical record. Voltaire described the war in which Spartacus fought, the Third Servile War, as the only just war in history. Much like Carmilla, Dracula was also homosexual, or at the very least an allegory for homosexuality. There was only ever one Minotaur with a capital M. When referencing the species as they appear in fantasy, they are simply lowercase minotaurs. Once, while Caligula was bored at the arena, he ordered a section of the audience to be thrown in and devoured by wild beasts for his amusement. Hopefully it wasn't a tough crowd. It is possible that Darius wasn't real, or at the very least that he's partially fabricated. Most of what we know of him comes almost exclusively from the Greek side, which seems to paint him as the direct opposite of Alexander. Eric never made it more than 3 years in his 3 attempts at being a king. Tamamo Cat weighs more than the other Tamamos. Whether this is because of her paws or other large assets is only known to Wada Arco. We actually lost part of the tale of Beowulf in the 1700s because of a fire. Also, the original tale had no title, so instead we call it by the name of the main character himself. Nightingale often referred to herself in the masculine because she genuinely believed that women were not as capable as men. Raiko is perhaps the world's most famous bug exterminator. Star Wars The Force Awakens is the 4th highest grossing film of all time at the time of recording this. Hijikata and Okita were likely not actually that close. Nobunaga killed Cha-Cha's father. If Penthesilea was historically accurate, she would have had one of her breasts removed to improve her archery. There are 2 possible places where the name Bunyan came from. It either originates from the Quebec expression bon yen, which means to be amazed, or you get the English version, which just refers to the swelling on one's foot. Upon seeing Qin Shi Huang for the first time, Zhang Yu's first comment was, "I can replace him." Paco, the artist for Arjuna Altar, directly called him a space cat. Mori Nagayoshi was killed in a battle while waving a war fan and dressed in an all-white kimono. This is likely where his 3rd Ascension art comes from. Salome was originally married to her uncle. The tale that Kijo Kyo originates from, the Momijigari, was the very first piece of Japanese film. The film is less than 4 minutes long and can be watched on Wikipedia. Galatea means she who is milk white. Also, ancient Romans would supposedly pay to be put up for a night with beautiful statues, further confirming to me that humans have always been and will always be a bunch of horny monkeys. In her earliest design, it is believed that Morgan was based off of one of the 9 Gaulish priestesses. Kriemhild and Brynhild once got into an argument about who should be downstream from the other while washing their hair. This resulted in an eventual great loss of life. Also, there's a location in Germany called the Kriemhildstuhl, which means Kriemhild's chair. Senno Rikyu was ordered to commit seppuku by Hideyoshi, and so for his last act of life, he decided to throw an amazing tea ceremony. As the ceremony itself drew to a close, he gifted a piece of his equipment to every member save for his cup, which he shattered onto the ground, claiming, quote, "Never again shall this cup, polluted by the lips of misfortune, be used by a man." The concept for MASH, and the Shielder Clash for that matter, has existed since Fate's Stay Night, but was continually scrapped until Grand Order. Joan of Arc had an incredibly short temper. During her trials, she is noted as having attempted to slap a Scotsman who had eaten stolen meat and mocking interrogators who asked her frivolous questions. One such example is when she was asked what language the voice of God spoke to her in, she responded by saying French and much better than you can. Amakusa Shiro died at the age of 17, putting him in a tie for the youngest servant. Sherlock Holmes' infamous deerstalker cap was actually just a one-off look from one story, but has become synonymous with the detective today. Qin Shi Huang's terracotta army was never supposed to be discovered. It was meant to rest in the ground for eternity. However, it was discovered by farmers who were digging for water. Astraea abandoned humanity because of our own greed, but promised to return and bring with her gold. Also, Astraea is the constellation Virgo, which in Latin is Justitia, who is also a deity of judgment. This loosely makes her Justice, the tarot card as well. We have attestations of Himiko's life through none other than the Chinese classic The Three Kingdoms. Karen was originally meant to be a Tsukihime character. Io does not exist in the historical record. Edmond Dantes was given his knowledge of the world by a man in the asylum he was locked in. The reason Dantes was here in the first place was because he was accused of being pro-Napoleon. An important design note on Jalter is that she has cut off the braid that Jean Ruler has as a form of rejection of that part of herself. The reason why she gets long hair in her 3rd ascension is because it looks hot. This is not a joke, that was in an interview. Angra Mainyu loves taking it up the ass, but will give you leprosy if you abide by it. Gorgons are one of the oldest Greek myth monsters. When Lobo was finally caught, it took 4 traps on all of his legs to keep him down. Seton, the man who had taken the bounty to kill the wolf, was unable to do so out of respect for the creature. In the beginning, Mozart was the one who detested Salieri because of his Italian roots. This has nothing to do with racism per se, but at the time, Italian composers were much more coveted by the Austrian nobility that they served, so Mozart was ignored by them for a time. According to herself, Space Ishtar is just as adept at taking down Lancers as MHX is. Her repent skill determines that this is a lie because she has anti-archer. Taira no Kagekyo starved himself to death after being captured. It is widely believed that Nobunaga Saga and Ranmaru had a sexual relationship, and homosexuality as a whole has been in the Japanese culture since ancient times. BB stands for Black Blossom or Bottom Black. Bonus BB beguiled bystanders by becoming BBB. Jinako was created on the request of Nasu. The nun outfit that is worn by Kiara is worn by Buddhist nuns. The slit up the side, however, is a personal addition that she added to stand out. The reason why Arc is summoned as a berserker in Fate Extra is because her master was a nutcase. Technically, Meltrilis and Meltlilith are both correct, though as of now, Meltrilis is the proper spelling. Passion Lip's very first friend was Tamamo Cat, solidifying Cat as the best Tama face. Yao Bikuni was from Obama. The idea of automaton and robots has existed in human culture for ages, but one of the first recorded instances of a metal humanoid comes to us from the Chinese Buddhist scholar Dao Zhuan, who described an actual robot made of clockwork machines and metal. This robot was able to recite scriptures and was supposedly kept in a cloister. After slaying the great serpent in her myth, Shitonai collected the bones of the sacrificed girls and mocked them for being weak. King Proteo was originally meant to be in CCC but was cut due to time constraints. Instead, they recycled her scenario into FGO. Ashia Doman once lost a magical duel because his oranges turned into rats. It was confirmed that Bazit can beat Shiro even post-training arc. Tomboys stay winning. Taisui is actually a member of the Venus Deity Club with other Chaldean servants like Ishtar and Ketz. Human beings were not emotionally prepared for the invention of mass communication and social media. Zhufu's whole tale is bizarre, but what I think is maybe the funniest bit of it is that he was sent to get the elixir of immortality from Mount Pengali. He returned claiming that a massive sea monster is blocking his way. In reality, this was very likely Zhufu trying to get out of getting the elixir because Mount Pengali is a mythological place and doesn't actually exist. After being given archers to deal with the monster, Zhufu just up and vanished at sea and was never seen again. It's believed that he settled in Japan, but we have no confirmation towards that. Nobody who admitted to being a witch at the Salem witch trials was executed. Only people who denied being one were convicted of the crime and were killed. Katsushika Oi divorced her husband for being a laughably bad artist and moved back in with her father. Neither of them much cared for housework either, so they lived in a filthy shack making some of Japan's most famous paintings together. Yang Guifei was strangled to death by a man with one testicle. Voyager has been programmed to have its antenna always facing towards Earth, so the next time that you ever feel lonely, just know that the little guy is keeping an eye on you from above. Van Gogh loved to paint in fields. These were the 5 crimes held against Dame Malay and the Knights Templar: spitting on the cross, kissing new initiates on the navel, mouth, and asshole, telling new members that it was okay to be horny, idolatry, and finally, priests did not consecrate the host in Holy Mass. Originally, Koyanskaya was only supposed to be a single entity, however, she's hot and marketable. Oberon is the product of Caesar and Morgan Le Fay. Hephaestion was killed by ingesting British food, aka boiled chicken. And that's gonna be it for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. Check out my links down below for my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. If there are any historical facts that you would love to share with me, please do so down below. But for now guys, keep your chin up, peace.